Yeah, so while I was still in Northern Ireland, that was my first experience of traveling with the Air Force. So I was sent to Madagascar for 2 months. Now you can imagine wanting to travel. There's me going to Northern Ireland and think I am really traveling. I was. But then they say, okay, we've got some aircraft that's monitoring the area around Rhodesia and all these places. And every 2 months, the engineers would swap over to keep these aircraft going, right? Because they were based out there. So, and it's very typical of when you work on a squadron or work on the aircraft, wherever they go, you have to have the engineers to do the work. So we went out to Madagascar in what we call a Charlie 130 Hercules aircraft. Now I can tell you, I thought my life had come to an end because that was 20 hours of flying in a Hercules. 10 straight hours, and we stopped in Moharek, refuel and carry on for another 10 hours. I was sick for 3 days. I couldn't even stand up talking to the station commander. But the significance of that is when you're the only tradesman there, you have to get the job done. So even though I went to the doctors and he said, Herman, you're suffering from travel sickness. And I couldn't even stand up. He said, go to bed. And as I was climbing into bed, the Land Rover pulled up outside and said, you need it at work because we don't know what to do. So I still had to go into work and get the job done. And I was able to do that and got back to it. But it was a great experience. 2 months in Madagascar was an indentation in my life that I'll never forget because the people there, so different. It was an education. So you start to learn about people and how much they know, how little they know, their level of living, whether it's poor, not so poor, or rich. And when I went to Madagascar, I started to see that. I also started to learn about people and their culture. What I mean by that is I went out and typical Air Force, we make sure we get a good deal out of where we went. So we only worked half a day, every other day. The rest of the time, there was a bus on to take you to the beach. So I went down to the beach and I'm standing there and the locals heard me talking. And it was absolutely amazing. They just couldn't believe I wasn't speaking their language because 75% of the Malagasys are African descent and 25 are French because it's a French colony. So they expected everyone that looks like them, and i.e. my color, to speak like them. So in no time I was surrounded by all these people listening to me talk. And this guy came up to me and said, where are you from? And I go, England. He goes, no, you know England. And it's just that experience I've not experienced that before, where somebody looked at me and thought I couldn't come from England or whatever. And it wasn't until I said I come from Jamaica, then they said, Jamaica. And they understood that, right? But there was a learning curve for me to say, we're the same, but we're different in many ways. But Madagascar was fantastic 2 months. I really loved it.